Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Landmark College webcast about our Transition at College program. My name is Chris Lenois. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications here at Landmark College, and I'll be moderating the session today. I'd like to invite each of the panelists to introduce themselves at this time, starting with Jennifer Core. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Hi there. Thanks for joining us. My name is Jennifer. I am the Assistant Dean and Director of Transition Programs here at Landmark College. Caden, do you want to introduce yourself? Yeah, Rob, sorry.
Hello, everybody. Rob Lutz here, Resident Dean of Frost Hall, also TaC Coordinator and alumni of Landmark College from 2014.
Go ahead, Caden.
Hey everyone, I'm Caden Dole. I'm a resident dean for Davis Hall. I'm also a TaC coordinator, as well as an alum back from 2012.
Great. Thanks everybody for being here and talking to the audience today. Before we get started with the formal presentation, just a little bit of housekeeping here. This is an hour-long session. There is going to be about a 20 to 25-minute formal presentation. But the panelists have encouraged you to ask questions during the presentation, and I'll be monitoring the questions as they come in. And when appropriate to the topic they're addressing, I will stop them and ask those questions. Other questions, if they come to you at that time, feel free to type them in, and I'll hold them for a more formal Q&A at the end. But anybody, if a question comes to you at any time, please do feel free to ask that question at that particular time. I think that's about all we need to do for housekeeping wise. So I know, Jennifer, you're going to get us going here with the PowerPoint.
Sure thing. Hopefully you guys can all see that. Yeah? Okay. We're figuring this out as we go here on this side. So yeah, we're here today to talk about the Transitions at College program at Landmark College. This is a one-year cohort-based program based largely for students who aren't entirely sure about college, right? It's an exploratory program. The cohort is typically around 20 students, most of whom are coming out of high school, though some have tried college elsewhere and are really looking for a more facilitated, intentional transition. And that's very much what the Transitions at College program is. So let me just figure out how to advance here. Okay, so, what we know about current brain science really tells us that continued brain development goes on until the mid-20s. So when we think about college-age students, we are really talking about folks across the board who are still in the midst of brain development. At Landmark College, we have very varied student profiles for sure, sort of across the board, though one commonality is in particular sort of challenges around executive function. So that's an important central piece to the Transitions at College program. These challenges or these struggles can be both developmental, again, so specifically just age-based, and they can also be related to LD. So what students have going on in terms of strategies and working through executive function and challenges. The Transitions at College program is really designed to support students who are stepping into the world, right? They're in a transition phase in life, into college, into the world. And often that means stepping away from sort of external or scaffolded executive function, right? So as they come out of secondary education and into the college setting, there's a lot of learning and practice that needs to happen around executive function in particular. So that is a very central theme in the program. Sorry, there's a little delay in my advance. I apologize for that. The program is very paced and guided, right? So it is, as I mentioned earlier, it's a very intentional transition into this important phase. In some ways, and you'll hear us saying TaC a lot, so we refer to the Transitions at College program as TaC. And in some ways, TaC is similar to other transition programs in that it's a thoughtfully guided transition year between secondary education and college. However, TaC at Landmark College is really built around a student population with learning differences. And it really centers executive function in terms of the program design and delivery. So there's a lot of strategies that are also centered, and there's a lot of very intentional and defined practice periods for trying new skills and getting accustomed to using those new skills on a daily basis. So the other piece of the Landmark Transitions at College program that I think is important is that we're really focusing on 3 realms within the transition. So a typical transition year to college is really about the academics, right? It's really about pursuing an academic degree in a college setting. When you participate in the Transitions at College program at Landmark, you are very much doing that. You are pursuing college level coursework, but you are also focused through the program structure on cultivating sort of in-person social skills and also developing independent living skills. And we find that this focus on sort of the 3 legs of a stool, if you will, really helps students find their way as they're emerging adults and identifying what they want to be doing with their own future. The other thing I'll add is that the sort of spirit of the program is very much exploratory in nature. So this is a place where students can explore college, and they do so with a reflective sort of lens. So thinking about their own self-awareness throughout. So if there aren't questions, I will also just advance here. So in terms of the program structure, hopefully you can see the diagram there, but the Transitions at College program is very much a goal-based sort of thematic exploration of college in general and of Landmark College specifically. So it's a exploration of Landmark College. It's an exploration of the self, and it's a willingness to try new strategies and to try new strategies in all 3 of these realms, not just academic strategies. It has a very highly structured fall programming. It is really intended to frame the experience and to help students to navigate Landmark College and to sort of routinize their daily living. So again, there's that daily living development of skills in an entirely new environment, right? So it's a very thoughtful way of transitioning into a place that is unknown to you and making that place home and figuring out how to navigate that place and be successful there. So the program structure in and of itself also really creates a community. So we do this through small group and large group weekly activities, discussions with a focus on sort of introduction to and navigation of different academic supports, social opportunities across campus. And all of this is done while building competencies and confidence. Those are important central themes to the program experience. As students gain comfort in the college setting, they begin to have more practice time. So you sort of see this heavily structured fall semester that gets much more personalized in the spring semester based on where students are focusing on continued skill development. So I'll leave it there, and we can answer some more specific questions about the structure if those emerge later. At this point, maybe I'll hand it off to Caden. Can you advance from your side? Sorry, I'm not sure how this works exactly.
Yeah, thanks. Awesome. Thank you. Hello again, everybody. So I want to take a moment here to talk a little bit about the team that we've built and how we kind of work to support students. So a key player who's not on this video stream tonight, but is absolutely incredible what she does, is Patrice Nolan, who's our academic advisor. She's been here for a very long time, and she works with students largely in that academic realm. She's their main point person for that. She meets with students once a week throughout the whole semester, and they follow a curriculum to really get them launched into academics here at Lenois. Then we have our program director, who's Jennifer Kaur, who was just speaking with you all, who kind of oversees everything, and she also comes down and from time to time and does programming with us and stuff like that. You have Rob and I, who are the program coordinators, who are kind of more like on the ground with students. We meet with students, do some mentoring. And then you have, we have an assistant who also does some mentoring with students and really kind of helps out with some of the support that just work on those, like the concrete skills a little bit, and building those routines that we were talking about. Yeah. So I guess, and then the last one there's the RAs, who are not necessarily TaC staff, but they work in the buildings and all the res halls, and are available to students. At night, there's always an RA who's on duty in case anyone has concerns or just needs to talk to somebody, or they're really the first point of contact and the first resource at night for students to go to. So there's really like there's always someone available to students no matter what time it is, in case anything comes up. Yeah, so a little bit more about how we use a coaching and practice approach. Many students who are coming to Landmark are coming from high school, maybe from another college as well, where they might have received a lot of external support. So parents or teachers, professors who really provide a lot of the executive functioning for them. And then once students get here, we work with them through our mentoring and having them practice. We work with them to make those independent skills that they're doing for themselves, and really growing and learning that. And what we find is a lot of students have a big boost in confidence. They have a lot more choice in what they're doing, and ownership. And then as they increase in their competence and their self-determination, there's a feeling that they can do things, that they can accomplish tasks and follow a routine. And then, yeah, that's kind of how they launch within the res life side of things rather than the academic side of things. So I'm gonna advance here. There we go. The next piece that I want to talk to you all about is this community-based social development, which is one of the 3 tiers that Jennifer Corhead spoke about: the academic, the independent living, and this is the social piece. So TaC is really an in-person experience because we are creating like a mini community within the larger Landmark community. So students are still very connected on campus to all the things that anyone else is connected to, in terms of programs and just the res halls and, just being here and being involved and engaged. But then we work really hard to create a mini community or a cohort where students can get connected to some key players around campus and some key staff and resources, and then kind of generalize that to the larger community and connect that to the larger community. Another piece of that, we do, like I said, we do a lot of the mentoring, and the advising relationship is very important. And then students also, they live in a res hall, just like all the other students, with students who are not in TaC, but they have a roommate who is in TaC. And they are all encouraged to eat meals together. And there's residence hall specific programs that go on, as well as campus-wide programs. And then we also, our staff does TaC specific programming or activities that have to do with the skill that we're working on that week or the theme of that week, so that students really get that experiential piece of it as well. The last piece that I'll mention here before I pass it off to Rob is that we do have the Peers program, which is the program for the education and enrichment of relational skills. This is an evidence-based social skills course. It's actually the only evidence-based social skills course from UCLA. And we run a separate group for the TaC students. So yeah, Rob, I'll pass it off to you.
Actually, Caden, before you pass it off to Rob, let me interject with a question from the audience here. I think you touched on some of this in your answer, so I think it's appropriate to ask it now. Somebody writes, my daughter is a senior in high school and was just diagnosed with ADD and executive functioning disorder. She has received no services or any help at all. The school just gave her a 504, mainly just extra time, which is not helpful. So how would the TaC program be good for that kind of student?
Certainly, yeah. I think in that case, coming here, just having a recent diagnosis could be helpful to really work on those skills. And that's something that we do, is we build, the specific concrete skills that people can use so that they become more independent, or have more independence with their executive functioning and getting to goals that they set and that kind of thing. So it's actually probably a great time to come and immerse yourself in this environment where you're learning all of those things, so that, you also learn a lot about yourself and about that diagnosis in some of the classes that happen, like perspectives in learning. They talk a lot about that too. Rob or Jennifer, do you have anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would just add that a lot of what's happening in the program is meaning making, right? So meaning making about yourself, finding your place in the world. And so if this is a brand new diagnosis, there are lots of opportunities within the Transition Psychology program to make sense of that and to figure out a strengths-based approach to managing executive function challenges and to continuing to develop your own executive function, right? In a really concentrated and a very named way.
Great, thanks. Rob, why don't you go ahead and pick it up from here?
All right, thanks, Chris. We'll move to the next slide. Just to add to that a little bit, not only if you're in the TaC program, you're also at Landmark College as a whole. So you're immersed with other students with LDs, some that are just getting diagnosed, some that have known most of their life. So there's so much added benefit besides just being in the TaC program while you're at Landmark. All the resources that are already available just being here. But it is really a great time to move into that transition. But so if you all can see this slide, it's residential life in Frost Hall. So Frost Hall is kind of where the magic happens a bit. This is where the TaC program is based out of. I've got some slides here with just some pictures of the rooms itself. Most of the rooms are doubles. If you request a single, that may happen, and you would basically have that same room, like you just have it to yourself. But like Caden was mentioning earlier, you would be most likely housed with another TaC student. So it's really helpful because you're going to be coming to the same TaC meetings. You're going to be, kind of on the same schedule in a way. Yeah, and then some other things that are going on in Frost Hall. You got the Centers for Diversity and Inclusion, which is housed downstairs. And there's a lot of good stuff going on down there. You've also got approximately 50 residents in the building. This year, it was around 18 TaC students that were here, and then the rest were, traditional Landmark students that were in Frost. But there's a lot of intermingling, but definitely being within the TaC program, you get a chance to kind of make those friendships first, get connected and kind of bond with the TaC students. We also have me, which is the resident dean. I live in the building. I work in the building with the students. My office is in the building. So I'm a huge question point, when they're getting to class or when things may be confusing in the beginning. As well as we have 3 resident assistants. And their office is right next to mine. They're on duty at night. So like Caden was saying, they, they're here for any questions or any concerns or anything that's coming up. Roommate conflicts, you can work with them on that. And if it needs to be dealt with by a resident dean, then you can work with them as well. It's a really, really close-knit community. As well, we have a gym, mostly cardio in the basement. We have our own laundry room, which is amazing, and the students love that. And we've got 2 common spaces. You see one of the pictures of the common space upstairs, and then as well we have a common space downstairs with a TV lounge. A lot of the students hook up their gaming devices and hang out. So it's a really close-knit community. A lot of people on campus say Frost Hall best hall. I seem to think so because I live here, and it really does have a special uniqueness about it. And having the TaC program within Frost has really been great. Yeah, so any questions on that, please feel free to ask in the chat. But I think we're going to move on to our next slide.
Yeah, nothing specific about that at this point, Rob, so go ahead.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob. So again, so this slide is cultivating independent living skills. And again, I just want to refresh everyone's memory about the 3 tiers that Jennifer, of course, had mentioned: the academic piece, the social piece, which I talked about last time, and then this is that 3rd one, the independent living skills. And you can see listed on this slide, there's a few just key points that kind of tie into what I'm about to talk about. So coming to college and coming to Landmark, it's a normal time for people to be transitioning to understanding and independently developing, practicing those routines around living and living on your own, and figuring out how to do that so that you can balance those important parts with the academic piece. And certainly having those and like the wellness aspect in place and as part of a routine lends itself to doing well academically, which is part of why we have this as one of the key things that we're going to work on with students. For a lot of our students with executive functioning challenges, just any part of coming to college, right? Executive functioning challenges can affect you in any area. And so being able to focus not only on academics with that, so they're doing well, but also like how is that affecting them in the res halls? How's that affecting them just in their daily routines, right? And doing laundry or showering, all of those kind of things. Yeah, and so we're really working to automate some of those skills and focus on one at a time, and whatever is going to help the student get to the goal that they're setting, that they've chosen for themselves. We're helping them build up the skills to get there. Yeah, and then they can work on like prioritizing and figuring out what to do next. And that's again some of what we do with the mentoring that we do with them, and as well as the thematic explorations each week. But this really sets them up with a strong foundation for success with academics. I think I'm passing it to Jennifer next.
Sure. So the purpose of college is, it's engaging with and understanding academic content, right? So every TaC student is a college student. They are taking college credits. It's not a gap year program where you're sort of looking at college from the outside. You're in college when you're in the Transitions at College program, but you are taking partial credit to enable space to participate in all of the other elements of this program. So the partial credit really offers authenticity to the college academic exploration. So you get a very real sense of what it's like to be managing college level academic responsibilities. But you also get care and time and space and structure to do that in a way to be successful, right, in this first year of transition. So, some of our students, I'll just say there are sort of varying points of entry at Landmark College in general academically, and that has a lot to do with intention when you're admitted and when you arrive. And we see that those varied entry points within the TaC program as well. So we have students that come into the Transitions at College program who are also participating in our STEP sort of academic track. And the STEP track is offering additional support around reading and writing during the course of that first year and has some proficiency elements to it. So there are TaC students who are also participating in that STEP track academically. We have other students who enter the TaC program and enter Landmark College with a very clear intention to pursue an associate's degree. And we have other students who enter the TaC program in Landmark College with a very clear intention to pursue a bachelor's degree. So those are sort of all on-ramps, and the cohort would represent sort of a mix of those students for sure.
Jennifer, let me ask you a question right now,
Sure.
Coming in from the audience here, and maybe part of this question you might not be able to answer, but the other part you probably can. Is Can you talk about how many students are taking courses for credit in the TaC program? That you may or may not know. But the second part is, how many courses are typical for a TaC student?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Perfect timing. So every student in the TaC program is taking some college credit. So again, this is not sort of a non-credit bearing gap year programs. Students are all taking partial credit. We have a couple of students who then advance to full credit. Again, because we're thinking about these three realms quite equally, we have students who are quite successful academically, but might really be challenged in-person social skills or in the challenges of independent living, right? And then we have other students who are thriving socially, but are really struggling with that academic realm, right? So again, how you advance and how quickly you advance into full credit really depends on your focus area. But every student who's in the Transitions at College program is taking some college credit. That is very much a part of the program. Hopefully that answers the question. Yeah.
A couple others here on things you've been covering. Somebody does ask too, how many classes a student would take in the first semester?
Yeah, so typically you would take, and this is where there's a little bit of variation by student, but typically there are 2 courses that would be credit bearing in the first semester. And then you might be, if you're in the STEP academic track, you might also be taking some STEP support courses in reading and writing. You might also be taking courses that are not credit bearing, but have, time in class and assignments associated. And then as you transition, I think a full credit load is 4 courses. It all depends on if they're single credit courses or 3 credit courses. But a TaC student could be taking full credit in the spring semester.
Okay. And then one more, I think I think it was you who said this. This question came in just as it was transitioning over to you. Is it, can you please give an example of what you mean by thematic exploration?
Oh yeah, no, that's a great question. Yeah. So there might be a theme, there is a theme for every week. So I'll use the example of sort of aligning with academic resources, right? So that would be the theme. We would set it up. We would talk with students about what it means to align with the academic resources that are already available on campus. And then there would be an experiential piece in the week where the whole group is introduced to the academic resources on campus. And that's a physical experience, right? So we're going to go to these places. We're going to meet the staff that work there. And we're going to talk through how to access these resources on your own. And then there's a debrief in the course of that week in which students are, they have earlier in the week set goals around what they want to understand about aligning with the academic resources, how they might do that and what that might look like. And then at the end of the week, there's a debrief to say, okay, did those things happen for you? What were some obstacles in that happening? And how might we take your experience in the course of these 5 days and build on that into next week and beyond? And each week has a different theme, but they're building on each other, sort of building a repertoire of experiences that the student can then draw back on. And also I'll say relationships, because it's one thing to come to a college that's really focusing on neurodiversity and learning differently with a lot of amazing resources available. It is a very different thing to successfully navigate those resources. And that's a big part of what the TaC program is doing, is it is helping to facilitate that navigation for a first-year student.
Okay. These questions about academics have really triggered these comments about academics have really triggered some questions here. So you mentioned the STEP program and that track, and a couple questions about that. One is STEP track remedial classes, and then also asking if STEP has an additional fee.
So I want to say some of these questions we might not be able to answer in full, right. But I know that your admissions counselor, whom hopefully everyone is working with already, and if not, connect up with admissions at Landmark College, and you'll get connected with someone who can walk you through some of this. I can say that the STEP courses in and of themselves are not credit bearing, and there is a proficiency element. So a student is placed in the STEP track based on testing and previous academic experiences, and then they sort of graduate out of the STEP track. So again, we could have students who are taking those non-credit bearing STEP courses and simultaneously taking 1 or 2 credit bearing courses in their first semester in the TaC program. Hopefully that answers the question.
I think it did, and I've had a couple of email exchange or just message exchanges with a couple of the folks, letting them know that some of the questions are more appropriate for their admissions counselor. I'm sorry, Caden, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I believe although TaC students are in their own STEP classes, that's a track that that anyone at Landmark could enter, and it's not specific to TaC, the TaC program.
Right. Right. Okay. Great. I think we're caught up on the in the moment questions, so please continue, Jennifer.
Sure thing. Yeah, no, that's an important clarification, Caden, so thanks. So I guess the other thing I want to say about sort of the academic element, well, I want to say two things. Back to the exploratory theme of the entire Transition to College program, you know, this is a year to be in college and to be in college in a really structured program that helps you navigate college. At the end of that, and I think Rob's going to talk a little bit more, it might be that a student, that the outcome of this year is that a student says, I don't think college is right for me right now. And that's an okay outcome. So as we talk through the academic component, I just want to emphasize that the program is really about progress in all three of these areas. So for example, we might have a student who really succeeds in their transition to college year socially in a way that they have not experienced in their life before, or really make significant progress in independent living in a way that they haven't had the opportunity to do before, but might suffer a balance effect of that, right? So their academic performance might take a dip because they're trying out more time in these other areas. And that is all supported by the program. And part of the goal is really finding balance on all three of those legs of the stool. So just to make that point. So in terms of the academic support, I think the only other points I really want to make sure that I make is that, as my colleagues already mentioned, students meet with an academic advisor every week. And in the case of the Transitions at College students, those students are all working with the same advisor, and that advisor is a part of our team. So we are meeting as a team every week to also talk about the student cohort, how we can best support individual students. And we're doing that both from the programmatic standpoint, the residential standpoint, and the academic standpoint. So we all are coming together, and that's an important, I think, benefit of the program, is to have your academic advisor also really be a part of the team, the program team. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say now. There's a lot to say academically, and I think there's a lot of specific questions which maybe we can get into. In the meantime, I'm just going to advance here. So this is just to make one other point, and again, in terms of that sort of multi-focus of the program, which is that, you know, one of the guiding principles of the program structure is really this awareness around cognitive load. And so we have students who come into our program who have been in heavily structured and supported academic environments and academically do fine. They do okay, right? And then they come to college and it sort of all falls apart because they're in a residential social setting. There's a lot of distractions. They have to be responsible for taking their own medication and remembering to take a shower and doing laundry and all of the things that are part of this developmental step. And those things can become overwhelming, right? So social anxiety and sort of the basic strains of independent living can take up too much of our capacity, leaving very little left to really focus on academics. So again, part of the program is to tease those out, to name those things that are creating an extraneous load and figure out strategies for managing them, figuring out how to create routines so that we don't have to dispense as much energy to manage them, so that we have more of our cognitive load to focus on the academic endeavor that is in fact the shared endeavor at college. So just to put that concept out, because it's something that we talk about as a team quite a bit, and it's something that we think about with students in terms of how they're strategizing a day, a week, a semester, setting goals and meeting goals. So with that, I will also hand it off to, I believe, Rob.
Yep. Thank you, Jennifer. Well said. So another very important component to this process is willingness. You may ask why. So as we just explained, there's a lot of work put in by our team, a lot. So we just need, a little bit of willingness on your end as well. So what can that look like? You just showing up, or you taking those steps into learning what you want to be doing here, who you want to be, the goals you're going to try to succeed, just being an active member of this process, because we can't force you to do it, right? You can bring the horse to water, but you can't make him drink it. So this is a really great way for your chance to show us your willingness. We do ask that you submit maybe a video or some sort of written segment to your admissions counselor. That way they can get it to us. It's also a really good way for us to get to know you, what your interests are, why you want to do the program. Because there's so much work that goes into this on your end, and it takes a lot, but the outcome is tremendous, right? You're really transforming your freshman year into such a transformative time, where a lot of people their freshman year are very lost. You're actively choosing to partake in a program that you're working on homes, living independently, going to class, learning all these things that you've maybe struggled with, and you're coming to a school that, you're coming to school with having a learning disability. So you've already had all these tripping points. So being willing to be in this program and to step up in that way is tremendous. So I'll move on from that. We also have program outcomes. So, kind of with the willingness a bit, what the outcome is kind of what you make it. So we're here to guide you. We're here to give you advice. We're here to coach you. We're here to just be that, external support that you may need. But really, the biggest thing about this program is we want to see what you want to do in life, where you want to go. So many students start this program may not thinking they want to be in college, and that's okay too. And this gives us this gives you, your family, us, the college, everybody a good idea if you're ready for college. So if you want to continue to get your AA here or your BA at Landmark, or if you want to continue at another college, or if you don't want to actually continue at college at all, this program and working with our team can kind of give you that, inside look into yourself of what you want. Something great about this program is we do try to connect you with the career services counselors, especially if you're really thinking about transferring, or you don't want to be doing college and you want to be looking at jobs. We try to really soon or really early on get you involved with them so we can start looking at jobs that you may like, just another option to where you're going. So as far as doing this program, the only way you can fail is if you don't try. It takes a lot, a lot of effort to continue college and be in college when you may have struggled so much in high school or in other aspects of your life. But coming into the TaC program really gives you that boost, that confidence, the friendships, the cohorts that you may be friends with for life, as well as Landmark as a whole. I mean, I am a past student, and with this coming to Landmark College was probably one of the most accepting and fulfilling learning outcomes or moments in my life within the academic realm, because I didn't know I had it in me until I came here and was able to push myself and take on new leadership roles, or just make friends that are pretty similar to me and have had the same struggles. So besides the TaC program, you're in an environment that's already just asking you to say yes and step up and be a part of something really great. So yeah, with that, I think we'll close. We did speak a lot about some good stuff, and we'll go into questions. Thank you. Yeah,
great job, Rob, Caden, and Jennifer. Thanks so much. And thanks so much for everybody who submitted questions and your patience. And as I mentioned before, some of the questions, especially around admissions, this panel may not be able to answer, and we encourage you to look at the TaC information on the website, as well as contact an admissions counselor. If you don't have an admissions counselor you're working with, you can just email admissions@landmark.edu. The first question that came in, I actually checked with an admissions counselor to answer this one right here, and I think it's good for everybody to hear it. It was, can you use the Common App to apply for the TaC program? The answer is yes, just like all the other programs, or if you're just enrolling in our regular undergraduate track, you can use the Common App for that. And some of these questions were also answered by Caden and Rob and Jennifer during the presentation, but I think it's good to kind of go through them again to reinforce some of the points, and maybe you'll think of something you'll want to elaborate on as I ask them. But another one that was pretty basic is, will there be college credits for this program? And I think the panelists answered that pretty thoroughly. The maximum credits that one can earn as a TaC student is 18 credits. So there's a lot of opportunity to earn credits in the TaC program. Now, I think this is something that was addressed a little bit in the presentation, but maybe something that can be elaborated on more around students with anxiety and support we have for those students on campus when it comes to mental health services here. You have students coming into this TaC program. It's a new experience. It can be stressful. Can you all, talk a little about some of those mental health supports that we have here? And maybe Rob, you're on camera right now, so do you want to start? You're muted right now.
Yep,
though.
I was muted. Thank you. So we do have the health services, which has multiple array of counselors on campus, as well as during the night, we've got counselors on call. And our resident deans, like Caden and I, are on all night, depending on the night. We rotate with 6 other resident deans. And so there's always someone for support throughout the night and throughout the day that can help with the anxiety and anything else that kind of comes up in those realms. I don't know if Jennifer or Caden, you want to add a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I'll just point out that, I'm sorry, Kate.
Go for it.
I'll just point out that, one of the things that the resident deans work with students on is sort of a distress tolerance plan, right? So again, this is around kind of self-determination, knowing yourself, understanding your needs, and articulating and advocating for yourself. So understanding sort of what works for you when you're experiencing social anxiety. And your resident deans and the TaC staff are going to help you reflect on that in moments of peaked anxiety. So we're not going to be able to make anxiety go away, and you're entering an in-person social experience, which can be stressful for anyone. But thinking about, okay, what are my strategies? And again, this is a college experience for practice. So some of this is just reframing and practicing new strategies that will hopefully serve you throughout your life as you continue to evolve those strategies.
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. And I'd just add that anxiety is something that a lot of our students experience. You're certainly not alone in that. There's a lot of stuff that's going on at this time in your life when you're transitioning to a new environment, a totally different, totally different space, the structure. And most of our students use the counselors here. It's pretty common. So, no one's alone in that.
And I've just learned that one of our admissions counselors is actually sitting in on this session, and appreciate them doing that. And they just added that 65% of our students take advantage of the counselors available through Student Health Services. So that hopefully helps that person with the answer that they're looking for. Next question, somebody just asking about the Vermont area, what it's like. They've never been, want to know about the nearby community. Rob and Caden, you've both been students here, so you can certainly speak firsthand to that.
Sure thing. So I'm originally from New Hampshire, which is pretty much just like Vermont in a lot of ways. It's amazing and full of hemlocks and beautiful trees and mountainsides and sheep. And in the spring, you get to smell the cows down the street. It's a really great place to live. In the winter, you've got skiing, you've got Killington Mountain, Mount Snow, Stratton, Okemo, all these ski mountains around us that our school actually has a shuttle that takes you to go skiing or snowboarding. We do ice hockey on the quad, cross-country skiing on the quad. We have a dog sledding team that comes during the winter. And then, during the fall, plenty of hiking. You get the foliage, which is amazing. There's sports. Your sports team, like our soccer team, is huge on campus. So a lot of people are out on the turf field playing that. Frisbee golf course. Sorry, these are all the things I've taken advantage of. But there's a lot to offer if you're willing to get out and try it out. But we also make it pretty accessible through programming on campus. So we invite students to get together through residential life programming or any of the athletic programming that's going on. So it's very accessible. We also have shuttles that go into local towns like Brattleboro, which is in Vermont, and then Keene, which is it's over in New Hampshire. And those have, the Walmarts and any McDonald's or any of those fast food places. There's JCPenney's and those kind of shopping places over in Keene. So, it's nice if you have your license. If you're here and you got a car, that's great because we're in a rural area. So, most things are a little distant. But if you don't, there are shuttles that will get you there that the school offers, which is really nice. Or you can find a friend that has a car. That's a good move too. So, I don't know, Caden, if you want to add anything else I may have skipped over.
That was great. And the only thing I'd add is just as much as Landmark is a very accepting community, Putney, which is the town that we're located in, is also very accepting and open. And there's lots of great places to just walk if you're just kind of looking to explore, or if you're looking just for something to do in an afternoon. It's a great spot to just walk into town. Yeah.
Great, thanks. Were you going to say something, Jennifer? Okay. So more basic question here, somebody just wondering how many students are enrolled in the TaC program and the typical ratio, gender ratio, male to female.
Yeah, so the TaC program is 18 students this year. And so we often say about 20 is kind of the average. And then I would say, like Landmark College in general, we do have a predominantly male student body, which is actually not true at every university and college. In fact, it's the inverse of what is typical at most colleges and universities. So we see that also in the TaC program, but there is certainly enough students to create social networks, right? To create, to find your friends, to find other people that you connect with, both within the TaC program. And then also, I just want to talk about this sort of parameter of the TaC program as quite permeable, right? So students, as they gain confidence and competence, they very much step out of the TaC cohort and are engaging with the larger student body, which is 350 to 400 students. So there are certainly lots of opportunities to connect with other folks.
Okay. We've had a couple of questions here just kind of asking about a typical schedule for a day, like what a day in the life of a TaC student looks like here. A couple different people have asked that in different ways. So I don't know if there's something we can point to, or is there something, I mean, I imagine some of this is varied depending on what students are studying.
Yeah, I mean, Caden and Rob, maybe one of you wants to walk through a week. I think that would give you a better sense because we organize the program by a week and students have classes in slightly different times and dates there. Does one of you want to take that on as like what the program structure looks like in a week? I can as well.
Yeah, I can totally do it. I wasn't sure if Rob was going to jump in, but yeah, I'm happy to explain some of that. So a typical week, there's the class blocks, which you'll have like a Monday and a Monday, Thursday class that you go to for a couple of hours. And then like a Tuesday and a Friday class. So you've got the classes sprinkled in there. And then we also, for the TaC program itself, there's a beginning of the week meeting and an end of the week meeting with kind of like a smaller group where we really focus on that thematic exploration and some of those topics in kind of a smaller setting with one of us. We also, in the middle of the week, do a larger whole TaC program meeting where we do accessible allies, which are connecting to key resources around campus. We have people from around campus come and actually meet meet you guys, meet the students, and talk to you about their area and kind of get to know them as like a safe person to go to in that realm of the college. And then we also do the program, the TaC specific program during that time in the middle of the week. And then aside from that, there's, it's going to vary a little bit on your personal schedule or the student's personal schedule, but we set up our one-to-one mentoring sessions, and that could be at any point during the week, really, with us. And then, of course, there's your meeting with your advisor. So we kind of have like a nice flow from the start of the week where we start it off and frame it, and then we get to the end of the week and we kind of, we frame the week, we go, and then a little bit in the middle. Does that explain it, you think, well enough?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just add, I think one of the significant benefits to participating in the TaC program is this team of people who are around you. And so this TaC staff team, any student who's participating in the program is going to have 4 to 5 weekly contacts with a TaC staff member, right? In addition to their coursework. So those are the places where, those are the facilitated experiences that you get by participating in the program, just to clarify that.
Great. Kind of a side question to that around free time. And let me read the question specifically, so in case I missed part of it. But are students free to be social and do things independently after school hours? If the student is someone who has trouble connecting with peers, could they potentially be alone with lack of socialization after dinner hours? So how do we keep people social? Obviously, there's some different elements and exceptions going on right now with COVID and our COVID restrictions. So maybe we can talk a little about current conditions and how things are normally going to operate here.
Yeah, totally. If it's okay with Jennifer and Rob, I can snag it and talk a little bit more about peers as well.
Great.
I do want to briefly bring up, the current conditions and stuff that you mentioned with COVID. Our RAs and the Res Life staff and the student activities and student affairs staff have done a great job translating the community that we build during any other semester to a safe environment. So whether that's online or there are some in-person socially distanced programs that we're doing, and really still providing those opportunities for students to engage with the community and with each other. And we do, there are some policies that we're unfortunately just asking people to be safe while they're socializing. But the community is still here. It's still very much alive and something students can engage with, despite COVID happening. I do want to transition here just a little bit and talk about the question a little bit more specifically, which is that there's lots of free time in Students' Day, in a Students' Day when they're not in classes or in meetings. Some students really like some of that free time to be alone, to process the day, stuff like that. For students who do want to be more social, there's plenty of opportunities, kind of like I mentioned before. If it's somebody who maybe struggles with some of that, or it's a little bit more of a challenge to understand how to engage, maybe they haven't found an accepting peer group yet. One piece is that Landmark, it is a group of peers who have had similar experiences, so it's a little bit more accepting than your average college, just to begin with, as a baseline. On top of that, we have the social pragmatic department that focuses on building social skills with students. And I teach one of the peers courses for TaC students. That peers is also available for regular, non-TaC students. And what that is it's a curriculum that very concretely teaches the social skills. So the steps to do things, and they're ecologically valid social skills. So they're things that socially successful people actually do. And our students, when they walk away from that, it's pretty comprehensive in that they're working with a social coach along the whole way in order to integrate them with a social group on campus and make sure that they kind of take off with that. Jennifer or Rob, do you have anything else to add?
I would just add that, again, the staff team that build the TaC program, that comprise the program for students, are also checking in with students around all three of these areas, right? So checking in around your academic endeavors, where are you challenged, what are your obstacles, checking in around social engagement. So what is that looking like? What are your goals? Do you have some social goals for this week? And can we strategize together around how to meet those goals? And then checking in, as Caden mentioned, at the end of the week to see how that went. You know, one of the things that we're asking students to do within the transition program is to take micro risks, to name them as micro risks and to take those actions, right? So sometimes that means stepping out socially. Sometimes it means talking about what kinds of friends you think you want and then figuring out how to connect with those folks. So that is very much a part of what is being explored through the course of the program.
Terrific. Why don't we move on here? So we were talking a little bit about free time and typical day, and somebody had a question about sports, athletics for students, you know, and how competitive they are or uncompetitive they are in terms of people just wanting to have fun and run around. And again, in normal times when we could play athletics, we have a pretty good, robust sports offerings here, don't we, guys?
Most definitely. This semester, obviously a little bit different with the COVID scenario, but it actually showed that we had more students coming out because they just needed that activity. So our soccer team, for example, we had like triple the amount of students playing, and they had enough players that we were able to just play ourselves. So we had home versus home, per se. And the students loved it. You know, it kept our school safe, you know, within our pod. We weren't traveling and playing other schools, unfortunately, but they still had that competitiveness and that, you know, rigorous exercise that they needed. I think our last home game was in the rain, and it was a, you know, 3-4 game. Most of the school came down to watch. So it's pretty fun and lively. And then the last 2 weeks before Thanksgiving break, basketball started up, and that will continue in the spring. And so it's, you know, it's pretty lively, and the students really do like getting out and, you know, exercising and getting active, especially.
Yeah, I wonder, are any of you involved in any of the outdoor program excursions? Those are things, you know, that are under athletics, the trips that Josh Ascani organizes. Maybe you can tell people a little bit about that, especially that one family that was wondering about the area.
So I've helped out a bit with Josh in the paintball trip, actually. Every fall they do a paintball trip to New Hampshire, and there's about like 25 to 30 students that pile in a bus. This year it was a little different because of COVID, so we had to cancel it. But it's a huge event that a lot of the students love to go to. It's safe, it's fun, it's aggressive, and a lot of the students, whatever the gender, are game for that.
Great. We are just about out of time here, and a lot of questions that we didn't get to, and we apologize for that. Certainly, again, some of these admissions-related questions or questions about other programs like STEP, please reach out to the admissions office through admissions@landmark.edu, and they'll be able to give you more information about those programs. We want to mention that this is the first of many sessions that Landmark College is holding on the Conduit platform over the next couple of months, typically scheduled for these Thursdays. In fact, we're having one next Thursday about our bridge experience, which is for students who are at other colleges who want to come here for a semester or two, acquire some of these skills that Landmark College specializes in teaching students who learn differently, and then go back to their home college. And again, that's something that that students with executive function challenges can certainly take advantage of. So come back next Thursday to this Conduit platform. That session is actually taking place at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, as opposed to this one. But that'll be the next one, and we'll be sending out reminders about all of the upcoming sessions. I want to close by thanking once again Jennifer Kaur, Rob Lutz, and Caden Dole for their time tonight, and thank everybody for their questions out there. Hope everybody has a great evening.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.